Welcome to the Altitude Show. I'm your host, Dave Brinker. Welcome to the Altitude Show, everybody. I'm your host, Dave Brinker. We have an amazing show for you today. If you've been around the outdoors, hunting, rifles, you've heard of Weatherby. Weatherby was started in California, out of all places, in 1945 by Roy Weatherby. It was grown to be one of the top rifle manufacturers in the country, known worldwide. Roy rubbed shoulders with people like John Wayne, Roy Rogers, Gary Cooper, other Hollywood celebrities. It's quite a unique story, especially for a gun manufacturer. Well, Adam Weatherby, a friend of mine, who is now the CEO of Weatherby, has since moved the company to Wyoming, brought it into modern times, continued the innovation that his grandfather sought out, and he's an amazing dude. He's a funny dude. He's really smart. He's also a pilot. He's got an awesome family. He's doing a great job with the company. We talk about everything from the history of the company. We spent a lot of time around that. Why he chose to move to Wyoming. Second Amendment issues. How they're going to continue to innovate something that's been innovated for quite a while at this point. Being a leader. Much, much, much more. I hope you enjoy the conversation. And you should know this by now, but please check out the brands that support the show. GoHunt.com, Peaks Equipment. If you've never used trekking poles before while packing out meat or just simply hiking with a light load, you're missing out. I know not that long ago it seemed like only wussies use those things. It's not true. They help incredibly, but Peaks Equipment also makes world-class gaiters, headlamp, a bunch of other stuff. Check it out, peaksequipment.com. Also, you need to go check out Outdoor Class if you are a aspiring hunter or even an experienced hunter. That let's face it, guys. Even if you're experienced, you don't know everything. You could enhance your education. Check out outdoorclass.com. Learn from the best like Remy Warren, Randy Newberg, Corey Jacobson, etc. It's some awesome stuff. Outdoorclass.com. Enjoy the show today, guys, with Adam Weatherby. Boom. The Altitude Show is brought to you by Peaks Equipment, the world's leading technical, hard goods, and accessories brand for backcountry enthusiasts. From trekking poles to headlamps to best-in-class gaiters, Peaks delivers a system of products that work to achieve optimal performance in the harshest conditions. Don't suffer on your hunting adventures. Peaks enables you to thrive on the mountain when everyone else is going home. Visit peaksequipment.com and use code ALTITUDE for 10% off today. That's Altitude for 10% off on peaksequipment.com. Outdoor Class is the new source of premium outdoor education from trusted and knowledgeable experts. For hunters committed to improving their skills, Outdoor Class is the only subscription-based e-learning platform that provides unlimited access to video lessons from the world's most respected experts. Learn from industry leaders like Corey Jacobson, Randy Newberg, Remy Warren, and other experts across all the topics that affect you as a hunter. Make sure to follow Outdoor Class Official on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube, and take your game to the next level by going to outdoorclass.com. You can use code ALTITUDE at checkout for 20% off. That is Altitude at checkout for 20% off at outdoorclass.com. Adam, what's up, man?
Hey, Brinker, so happy to be on with you.
Yeah, man. Welcome, and I'm assuming you're in beautiful Wyoming today.
I am in beautiful Sheridan, Wyoming. It's our home, and you've been here. This summer is 4 years. So
that's crazy. It seems like, I mean, it's cliche, but it seems like yesterday you guys decided to move there. I remember visiting your headquarters in Paso Robles.
You did? You came out there?
Yeah.
Hey. Now, have you been out to our place in Wyoming? I can't remember if you've been out here yet.
No, hold on.
It's night and day difference, man, from what you saw out there in California. You gotta come on out, check it out for sure.
Sorry, my headphones
yes.
ripped out. I have not been out to to your place in Wyoming yet, but I want to. I love that area. I love Wyoming. I think it's one of the most. It's not actually. It sucks. It sucks. Wyoming sucks. No one moved there. But
well, especially for resident hunters, if you want to move here and be a resident hunter, it's really a bad deal. There's no game left. You can't get tags. It's absolutely
it's terrible. Man, they sure took a lot of my money to apply out there.
I know.
Gee whiz, I had about to take a second out on my house to apply in Wyoming.
Yeah, but then when you don't draw, like 6 months from now, you get your money back. So it's good.
I get all of it back?
Actually, we'll go ahead and keep some.
Yeah, you're just going to keep it and for that good resident hunting. I got it. I came out there. I can't remember. Oh, I remember why I came out to Paso Robles a long time ago was we were working on a film with Corey Jacobson, and we went pig hunting for a couple days to storyboard it out and spent a couple days in the woods, and we hunted just outside of town there for pigs. I think that's why I was down there, if I remember correctly.
I might have even been gone or something when you were there.
No, you were there. You just don't. I'm forgettable, Adam. You just don't remember.
Unforgettable. I have that face. I guess.
Oh, do we get a live Adam Weatherby performance on here today?
No. Next question, please.
How are you guys liking Wyoming? Sheridan is it has an airport, correct?
It does. Yep. It does. We got 2 commercial flights a day to Denver, so it's pretty big. Pretty big.
You can either go to Denver or Denver.
Correct. We're a little over an hour and a half from Billings, Montana. There's a whole lot of flights out of there, so a lot of times you just kind of drive across the border, go up there too.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
But it's working out good. You guys being there, you loving it. Your headquarters is beautiful. The pictures I've seen.
Thanks.
I've never actually been invited, but we can talk about that offline.
I could formally invite you online. But it is open to the public, so you can come by for a non-VIP tour. Yeah, no, it's amazing. Yeah, we were able to double our space, here. I have kind of a brand new kind of state-of-the-art factory. So, that part's awesome. Just living at the feet of the Bighorn Mountains and the access to just
the bighorns are amazing. I love the bighorns.
So we're just like, man, between the business friendly, tax friendly, 2A friendly, a lot of things that really obviously matter to us and what we do, combined with the outdoor living here, really outside the core of the winter. When you grew up in California, that's the people ask what I miss about California, and I'm like, yeah, probably about end of February, March. I kind of sometimes get over those.
Yeah, in that area. Did you grow up in that Paso Robles area?
High school on, yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I love that area.
Beautiful.
I think it's great, and it's not the cliche California kind of vibe. It's pretty rural, like cowboy, yes. Deer hunting, pig hunting, whatever, bass fishing, maybe. I don't know. It just seems like it's an outdoorsy area. It's kind of in the middle of nowhere. That's the problem with it.
It is, but that's actually what we kind of liked about it because it was more rural. People think, oh, you're from California, and they just picture concrete everywhere. And
right.
We grew up, it was kind of ranching, and the ranching actually turned in that people, landowners realized they could make more money off of wine than cows. And so you probably remember seeing a lot of vineyards out there. In fact, if you're, you probably have an audio and video version of your podcast.
Yeah, absolutely.
So if you're watching the video one, there's a little buck on the back wall behind me. And that buck is my wife's first buck. It's California kind of blacktail hybrid mule deer, so they're small. That's actually a good buck, even though
are they actually hybrids in those mountains?
Yeah, so down there, they kind of call it like a coastal mule deer. It's, I think, not technically a blacktail, but a lot of locals call it blacktail. So there's been a lot of debate and study on the deer that are in that region. So, but this deer on the wall behind me, my wife actually shot in a vineyard. And so it was the best tasting venison of your life. It's unbelievable. In fact, they shot the deer and then they open a bottle of, like, if it's in the Cab Rose or the Merlot Rose, then they like open that bottle and you eat the heart from the deer combined with, like, I think this was in the Merlot Rose of this gigantic vineyard. Obviously it's not high fenced in. Everybody else fences them out because they don't want the deer eating their vines. And these particular guys hunt it, and they just manage the deer through hunting. and allow for that to happen. And they have healthy herds of deer that are in their place because everybody else fences them out.
How do they keep the pigs out of there, or do they do the same thing?
No, right around there, actually, there's no pigs right in that area. It's a little just too populated, I think, for them or something.
Oh, okay.
Kind of crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, that's weird. Pigs are so funny, man. Like the areas they're everywhere and you can't get rid of them. But then there'll be like little pockets in California, even though I can't remember what the latest statistic is on how many pigs are in California, but I believe they're in every county. And but you'll find places like I used to hunt. In fact, that's where I met Jason Hairston. And before I got hired at Sitka, was we used to hunt a ranch in Kettleman City, just east of where you were.
Oh yeah.
I mean, the pig populations were insane. But then I moved to Northern California, and where I lived, there wasn't that many pigs. I mean, there were some, but it was pretty low. So it's interesting to hear that there's a vineyard that can have no fences, because those grapes to pigs, I mean, they'll come from miles for those babies.
For sure.
And so they manage the deer on that. That's cool. We drink a lot of wine from down there, buddy.
Yeah, it's good stuff. Yeah, the wine growing out here in Wyoming is not quite as good, but they have their other spirits out here.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, they do. Yeah, the Bighorn Mountains are probably in my top several mountain ranges that I've ever been to in terms of just beauty. However, Adam, I got to tell you, that was the worst camping trip I've ever had with my family is when I went to the Bighorn Mountains.
Why?
And one of the worst fights I've ever had with my wife. We had
You want to share?
I do. Yeah, this is my podcast. So everybody's victim. They got to hear the story. So we go camping in the Bighorns in June, which you probably know that the mosquitoes are awful in June in up there in those mountains. The snow's kind of burning off, and there's a kind of a lot of standing water. And anyways, we get up there. We had basically a newborn and a couple other youngsters. And actually, we met Brandon Mason from Eastman's up there, but that's a different part of the story. Yeah. Long story short, after like a day, we were tech camping. So, and we get towards the night of the first day, all of my kids look like they have measles. Like there's so many mosquito bites. Like you can't even, I actually remember putting all the kids in the truck and just sitting in the truck. It was awful. The mosquitoes were terrible. And then, so anyways, night comes around. And finally, the sun goes down. I'm like, we're going to bed. We're all tired. It was hot. Everybody's just beat up from mosquitoes. My son, Davey, was like walking around in a walker outside, but just getting eaten alive. So we get in the tent, and we're all on an air mattress. And for all of you families out there that have young families, I just wouldn't recommend tent camping. Get a trailer if you can afford it. If not, get an Airbnb. It's just hard camping with newborns, tent camping, at least mine, because they all cried at night and like squirmed, and it was hard to sleep. So anyways, this night, our air mattress decided at about 11 o'clock to go psh, and we just sunk in the ground. Hit the ground. Air mattress completely out of air. I don't know what popped it. So I spent my wife too, we had to get up every half hour and blow the air mattress up again. Meanwhile, our son's crying because he can't stop itching his mosquito bites. So we woke up, and I said a fight. We didn't have a fight. We just didn't talk.
Yeah.
All the way back to Bozeman, Montana, which was like a 5 or 6 hour drive.
4 hours, yeah, 5.
Anyways, it was one of the most miserable camping trips I've ever had, Adam. But it was a beautiful place.
And all the while, you had a perfectly fine house at home that you could have been sleeping in on a nice bed with no bugs or anything. Don't we love the outdoors?
I think that was the last time we tent camped with the kids. I think we went home and we bought the crappiest trailer you've ever seen for like $1,000.
Yeah.
But it was the best thing we ever got. We loved it. And it was a piece of junk. I remember one day we were driving down the road, and my coworker at Sitka was following us, and I turned a corner with that trailer, and a window flew out of the side of the trailer and broke on the highway, and my coworker called me just laughing. So anyways, end of story time. So you run Weatherby correctly? Correct?
Correctly. I run it correctly.
You run it correct. Do you run it correctly?
Most days when I speak right, yes.
And you're the third generation doing that.
Correct. Correct. My grandpa started in 1945. And so this is our 77th year of business. And then my dad ran it after him. And
I'm fascinated by Roy. I want to learn more about Roy.
yeah,
He's my hero because he started this he first started a sporting goods store though, didn't he?
well, no, um, it actually started with him hand loading and wildcatting and coming up with the super high velocity cartridges. That's actually how
Oh,
he
okay.
got his following. We were an ammo company before we were anything else.
Oh,
So
okay.
he was kind of just a classic story. He had like 7 or 8 older sisters. He grew up as a poor farm boy in Kansas. Started to get a love for the outdoors, kind of, just shooting things down in the creek beds and shooting crows for neighbors and getting paid for it and all that.
Yeah.
And then when he was old enough, him and my grandma moved out to California to go start a life for his own, having no idea what it would be. Sold insurance door to door in California in the early 40s. And that's when he actually went on a hunt in Utah and wounded an animal. And I think was unsuccessful in tracking it and recovering it. And so then he said, you know what, I bet, and he had this kind of thing for, velocity kills type of thing, and said, I'm going to start getting bullets moving faster. And it was off of his passion for a clean, ethical, kill on an animal. And he started doing that, started getting a following, wrote some letters to editors of big magazines that we know of now. And, editors published those, and he started just getting this following, and it kind of spiraled from there. And then he had the sporting goods store then associated with it. But that's how it all got started many, many, many years ago.
I was looking at old pictures this morning of the store, dude.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, as you can tell, I love a neon sign, and he had like a big neon sign out there, Weatherby Sporting Goods, right?
Yeah.
That's
That was like what would be now in the ghetto in Southern California. Like it was,
really,
yeah, I mean, but it was so different in the 40s and 50s. And people always go, how could you be a gun company and be running out there? When my grandpa started it, I mean, that's how he met John Wayne, Gary Cooper, Roy Rogers.
oh, no way.
Oh yeah, he was buddies with those guys, and they'd come by his store. I mean, it's a different era than we grew up in.
Dude, that's crazy. He met
Yeah.
John Wayne.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Was John Wayne shooting his stuff?
Yep.
Really?
Yep. Oh yeah. Well, I got pictures of John Wayne with Weatherby, so yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah, pretty cool stuff. So he leveraged the Southern California and Hollywood, kind of use that to his benefit for marketing. Really, kind of rubbing shoulders with those guys down there when most of the other companies at the time were all on the East Coast. He was the only one out west.
That's really interesting. And even up till 4 years ago when you guys moved, I mean, that was in the 50s when guns were maybe a little bit less controversial.
Yeah.
But you guys just moved 4 years ago and you were still a California company. Like, how was that in modern times? Did you guys find that the scrutiny got worse, or was it always a pretty happy place?
No, it got much, much worse. Yeah, it was not the California of the old days. So it kept getting a lot harder, both from just a general manufacturing and business and regulations and taxes and all those kind of things. And then, of course, the constant attack on Second Amendment rights and different things. And so it got just tougher and tougher and tougher to do what we did. And that's why we're out here. So we were looking for states, and then Governor Matt Mead was like, hey, we're going to get you here. We got more guns per capita. I'm like, that's because you don't have any capita here. No people. Yeah, we got more guns per capita. We got, great business environment. We're going to get you out here, and we're going to make this work for you guys. And so it's been so good for our business. It's just been a restart. I always say California has a rich history for our business, and Wyoming has a vibrant, future. And a lot of the past things in California were amazing. We wouldn't be here today if it weren't for that. But our future was not in California.
Yeah.
No way. Yeah.
How did that work with the team out there? I imagine that was very hard. Some people chose to move. Some people probably didn't.
Correct. Most didn't. And, most guys that work for us and like guns and hunting were pretty excited about it. And then they'd be like, yeah, I'm in. And then they'd go home and talk to their significant others. And
right.
So as it turns out, I won't be moving. so
Right.
so we left a lot of really good people behind, but at the same time, we've hired a phenomenal team here in
Yeah.
Wyoming. And so you use those opportunities to reform and restructure, and we do miss a lot of those folks, but we we have the percentage of our workforce that's passionate about being in the outdoors and using our product is so high, out here in Wyoming.
Yeah, I remember when we moved Sitka from Napa, California, kind of a similar thing, right? We moved it from Napa to Bozeman, which at the time Bozeman was still, it was different than it is today. I love Bozeman, but it's changed a lot. And we had to leave good people behind too. I mean, some people just can't. I mean, even the founder, Jonathan, he still lives in California. He just travels back and forth, I think, still. I haven't talked to him in a while, but that's the hard choice you have to make as a leader, right? But sounds like it worked out.
Yeah, I mean, I have this legacy, that's 77 years now, and I got to keep it alive and moving forward. And it's like, we didn't want to exist just to exist. And that's not the type of leader I am. Put something on cruise control. I mean, we were wanting to grow. We were wanting to innovate. We were wanting to push forward. We had this brand that's just, this prestigious, firearms and ammunition brand, and yet wanted to do so much. And we're just so limited out there in so many different ways. So being here really kind of, I don't know, it just removed that ceiling, and it's really allowed us to grow being out here.
How did you, I always wonder with like multiple generation family run companies, like not everybody wakes up. My son often says to me, Daddy, someday I want to run your company. Mm-hmm. I think to myself, gosh, that warms my heart. Like, that's cool to hear. But at the same time, I'm like, I don't ever want him to do that just because he feels like he has to. Sure. Like when you were growing up, did you know you wanted to do this? Or was it something was there ever another choice? Like, how did that work?
Yeah, no, there was. And in fact, I actually left the company full-time for a number of years and did full-time Christian ministry for a number of years. And I think, and then came back to the company full-time, obviously many years ago. But I think, a lot of people, I think it's healthy sometimes, like in the way I'm wired is I need to pursue my passion. And at that given time, it was to go and serve others through those different means. And I think, the worst thing you could do is have a generational business, have that child, grandchild, whatever it is, come up and do it because they feel like they have to. They're trying to be successful. You need to show up. I mean, it's a lot of work. It's a burden. It's a blessing and a burden at the same time. I mean, there's a lot of level of responsibility. You can't be halfway into it. You got to be all the way. And I think sometimes if there's a successful entrepreneur, his or her, kind of generational offspring, if you would, can come up. And sometimes I think that's why those family businesses don't succeed, is because the next one comes up and you don't put in the hard work. I mean, we put in a lot of work when we came here. I felt like we were a 75-year-old startup. Brenda and I looked at each other and said, we have no idea who's moving outside the two of us till it's like go time. And so we got to know kind of everything about this business. We're building a brand new 75,000 square foot facility. We're moving people. We're hiring people. We felt a bit like entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
At the same time, though, to come from where my grandpa did and to do that attitude, mentality he had, that business was really everything to him. And so to not go through the same risks that my grandpa did and do all those things, like you never really know how that person feels. And I think there's something to be said about that.
Well, it's a really good point that sometimes legacy companies can fail. Maybe it's because they get on cruise control. Maybe it's because someone generationally leads them that maybe shouldn't be. Whatever the reasons are, but you have to. It seems like you almost have to look at it as like, yes, I have a brand that's valuable. Yeah. Yes, I have current customers and current sales. But my job as Adam, as it was for Ed and Roy, is to figure out, how do I take Weatherby into the future? What's in the past doesn't really matter. It already happened. And the future's, it's not like it's getting easier for gun manufacturers. It's scary. It's totally a startup. So that's pretty cool that you looked at it that way. And then moving to Wyoming, So you say 75,000 feet. I imagine. Did you grow your employee base when you got there?
Yeah. So we've doubled our employee base from when we were in California. So we actually in the first 3 years here, we doubled our revenue and doubled our employee base for a 75-year-old company. That's a lot of growth in a few short years. A startup, you may find that, but for a 75-year-old company, we've grown and doubled in revenue and doubled in our workforce.
Well, I've certainly noticed it. I mean, as a member of this industry, when I first started in the industry, I've always known about Weatherby, but you guys have definitely stepped up your game the last several years, especially. And obviously, I mean, a leader gets, like I always say, like the leader has to take all the shit, but they also do get the credit too when it comes around. So that's pretty cool that you've led it in that direction, man. That's admirable. Did you find yourself? So you're doing Christian ministry, and your dad was running the company at the time. Ed, is that true? Is he still around?
Yeah. He actually retired, moved out here to Wyoming, so he's out here.
Oh, rad.
Well, yeah.
So did you kind of get your entrepreneurial spirit obviously passed down by generation, but also you have to learn leadership skills because leading that big of a team doesn't just come naturally to everybody.
Right. Yeah, and that's what's cool is my time that I used more doing the pastor thing and all that. You really learn people, leadership, forming teams, casting vision, communicating. Those are my more natural skill sets. And then I just got to hire really smart engineers, marketers, accountants, and all the, accounting people and all the people that are necessary to run a business. And so, my dad had always seen that, in me, and that those natural leadership things are there, and obviously still learning and growing in that. And then it's really surrounding myself with a lot of smart people in those different areas. Is
absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. And it seems like just because I've watched, I mean, you're literally, here you are, third generation, 75 years in, you're literally still standing at the trade show booth. I mean, even just that, even though it seems like a small thing, that's not that common, man. Like, it would have been much easier for you just to pay yourself a high salary, let it go on cruise control, and do whatever the hell you want. Right. But it's admirable to see. I always think to myself, man, that's cool. Adam's working the booth. I mean, I came there in February and bought a rifle from you at the booth. Even most CEOs aren't doing that. Like, they're sending a team to the trade show. So, but that's how you stay connected, right?
Absolutely. What's neat about that too is right across, when you came in our booth there in Salt Lake, right across from us was Buck Knives. And what's cool is CJ Buck was in that booth all weekend too.
He was?
Yeah, and they're older than we are.
Gosh, I wish I would have met him.
They actually moved from California up to Post Falls, Idaho. So they did a similar thing that we did, and multi-generational thing. And it is cool to see that. But now, if a couple years from now I get tired and I want to go do that, just sit back and make money and not go to the trade shows, are you going to yell at me, Brinker?
We're going to have you on the podcast and talk about how you've become, entitled.
Okay. All right. Okay.
No, you got a couple more years in you, man. You can do it.
We do. And we got, that's what's cool is, we've grown a lot in the last few years, but in the next few years, we still have a lot of great plans. So we're kind of midstream in this kind of whole, switch in the last few years. I think both product wise and things we've brought in-house from manufacturing and building our engineering team and doing things to kind of line us up for the future. Hopefully we've covered a lot of ground in the last few years, and the next few years I think is equally going to be as exciting, which it keeps me coming. I'm not a cruise control kind of guy when it comes to that. It's fun to get out there and keep trying new things.
What's the future of the gun industry? I mean, there's I've been reading a lot about the PLCAA, basically the protection of liability for gun manufacturers from being sued if something happens bad with their guns, stuff like that. I mean, obviously it's always under scrutiny. Sure. The NRA itself has been under a ton of scrutiny lately. What is the future? Like, when you look 10 years down the road, what keeps you up at night and what excites you?
Yeah. No, I mean, certainly, I always joke manufacturing's really hard in comparison I don't know, I haven't done the other things, but I mean, just making stuff has its own challenges.
Right.
And in comparison to, I always look at some tech startup company in Silicon Valley from some college kid that, it's worth $2 billion or something. Like, man, that looks easy. It's always easier on the other side. Yeah. But, the manufacturing, just US manufacturing, it's hard work. And then you throw in that we're making a highly regulated, product liability type of product. It's, there is a lot of risk, obviously. And, every firearm we make, it's tracked by the ATF. It's a highly regulated.
Which is funny because if the narrative that comes out of the hard anti-gun crowd is it's completely unregulated and it's just people can. Dude, I went in. Actually, this is fun. I didn't even think about this. I finally went to pick up the rifle that I bought from you in Salt Lake at the gun store that I had it shipped to last week. And anyways, I go in there and they bring it out to the counter. And the last time I bought a gun, I walked in, did a background check, walked out with it, and it was an AR, which I was shocked. But they did a background check, all that stuff. Anyways, I have this 243 Camilla that I bought for my son sitting on the counter, and I'm like, sweet, I'm going to walk out of here with it. Bear season starts here in like a week and a half. And he types in all my stuff. He's like, all right, you can come pick it up in 7 to 10 days. I'm like, dude, I just drove an hour. Like, I got to wait another week? He's like, yeah, you're like number 800 on background checks. So, yeah, sorry.
Really?
But point being is it made me start thinking again. It's like, man, I don't know where people get this idea that you can just that's not regulated. Like it's highly, highly, highly regulated. Like if something ever happened with my AR, it's tied to me. It's I had a pistol stolen here a few months ago, and I had to send several emails to the police department on record with the serial number and like all the things I had on it. So if it's ever used in a crime, like it's on record. Otherwise, I could be held liable. So, anyways, where's that all going? Like, where are we headed from that standpoint of all the crap that's getting thrown at this industry?
Man, I don't know. And obviously there is, there's always worries about that going forward. We do, because of our product lineup, we currently don't make pistols. We don't make semi-auto rifles. So it's important that we defend, kind of our rights to be able to carry those and do that too. We don't make those nor sell those now. So we're under a little less scrutiny than maybe a lot of our friends out there in the industry that are making some of those other products that are really on those front lines, if you would, of understanding.
You don't sell any semi-automatic, like not even shotguns?
Shotguns we do. Okay. Shotguns, not rifles. So not AR platform stuff. Semi-auto. But also, here's the deal. It's what it looks like, unfortunately. So our semi-auto shotguns that are, dipped in Max 5 that people take duck hunting are less scary. But if you paint it black and put a couple accessories on it, then it's much more dangerous.
Right.
Yeah. And so obviously that kind of exists. So we're under a little, obviously less scrutiny than some of our other friends that are out there, doing some of those other things. But it is scary times. And I think that is why it is important, whether it be, different organizations that are out there. You mentioned NRA, of course, there's NSSF, kind of our industry voice in that. And it is very important right now that we don't back down on a lot of those things so that we can continue to have the rights that you and I were able to grow up with. And so it obviously, is quite important.
Yeah, the one that PLCAA, protection of, I had to write it down, protection of lawful commerce.
Yeah.
That's a scary one to me, just because, the reality is you can't control if someone uses your gun illegally, just like I couldn't control it if I buy a car or if I sell cars. I'm Elon Musk. I can't help it if someone wrecks a Tesla.
No. Nor can if you choose to do, people choose to drink alcohol and get in a car and drive and kill people. They chose to drink that alcohol and then get in the car. That's the human being's fault. And I call it, it's a heart issue, right? So if I'm going to go shoot somebody, or if I'm going to choose to drink and get in a car, that's an Adam issue. That's not a Budweiser issue or a Ruger issue or a Tesla issue. That's a hard issue. That's a people issue. It's the darkness of the human race that exists.
Yes.
And by going after, I believe in the gun industry, they go after the tool that's used, not the person, more than any other industry, perhaps. And I'm sure somebody can argue me on that, and that's fine. But it's like you have alcohol that kills, how many people a year, or the different things that you have. But those are human choices that I have to drink responsibly, to shoot responsibly. And so, we've seen it there. There's stabbings, there's driving cars into things. Do we need to take away cars? Do we need to take away knives? No, it's a human issue. So if we're going to spend money on anything, let's try to help people and not blame the tool. And that's one of the most frustrating things, obviously, that seems to be so backwards is really the amount of people, unfortunately, in our country that just don't understand that.
Yeah, humans have a tendency to abuse things, all things.
Yes. Yeah.
Sex, drugs, alcohol,
rock and roll.
It's just the way it is. So are we going to start? And that's often the problem these days, it seems like, because everything's so polarized and divisive. That, if you actually think rationally about a lot of the most the hardest topics to talk about right now, if you try to apply this radical precedent across the board on everything that can be used as an analogy to what you're talking about, it doesn't work. Like if you say guns are the problem, therefore X, Y, Z, and then you're like, wait a minute, are we going to start applying that to alcohol and cars?
How about smartphones? How many people die because of texting and driving? So do we, is that the phone company?
Well, no, that's different, Adam. They're not black and they don't have clips. Okay.
And magazines for the clips and things.
Yeah, exactly. And believe me, I try to listen to both sides of the argument. I've said this 5 times in the podcast by now. Probably my wife's going to kill me, but my wife is much more. My wife's I wouldn't call her a liberal, but she's definitely more liberal than I am. I'm very conservative, and I have I guess you could call them not cliche, but like the more conservative point of views on the Second Amendment and guns. Mm-hmm. But my wife's very good at listening, and she listens to all kinds of perspectives on everything. So every once in a while, we'll get in a gun debate around specifically around the black gun thing, the assault rifles and such. I try to listen, and I listen, I really do. But when you start trying to apply that same rationale to other things, it just doesn't work very well. So, it always comes down to a human issue. That guy chose to walk into a school or into his ex-girlfriend's house, and he made the choice to murder someone, which is awful. But there's many, many, many more people that use guns lawfully. Many, 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 many more, right? It's totally possible to. I'll give you another example, Adam, and I'm not a pot smoker. I hate it, but they legalized it out here. Mm-hmm. I don't love it. I think people can totally abuse it, but there's a lot of people that I know that I love, and the great friends of mine or even family of mine that smoke it all the time responsibly. They're told that they turned out fine. 10 years ago, I would have disagreed with it. I don't know. I may not now, but you can't say just because someone becomes a stoner and like ruins their life that my brother can't smoke it for his seizure disorder because that guy ruined his life. It's not necessarily so my point is like just more open conversations about this stuff and just this irrational commentary you get, especially on guns. And that liability one is super scary because now you're talking about anybody being able to sue a gun company for if someone makes a bad choice with a gun. So if I go out and murder somebody with a Weatherby rifle, you, Adam Weatherby, are responsible for that. How in the hell does that work?
Which is highly inefficient. Our ammo's kind of expensive. The gun's expensive. It's highly inefficient anyways. But no, I know it's absolutely, it's ludicrous. You look back, talk about, I said it was in Christian ministry. Look back in the Bible. What was the first murder? It was Cain and Abel. Pretty sure it was probably a rock to the head. You know what I mean? Like, so what are you going to do? Outlaw rocks? It was It was one person hating somebody to the point where they wanted to kill them. And they used a natural thing, a stick or a rock or whatever. Like, you can't, that's a human thing. That is not, you don't go after the tool. So I could kill you with a spoon, Brinker.
I don't think you could. I think I would tap you out, man. I'm working on that jujitsu.
Really? I think I could probably kill you with a spoon, but you haven't seen me with a spoon, apparently.
So how do you innovate hunting rifles? Like, to me, like, obviously I love what you guys are doing. You have awesome stuff. And but I often, because I'm more of a bow hunter, Adam.
Yeah.
Not really. I mean, I have a lot of guns, but I can't be classified as a gun nut. I don't know all the details. In fact, you said a word earlier. I don't even know what it means, but I'm not going to admit it live on the show. I'll ask you afterwards. Yeah. But I look at like the bow industry, right? You got several top brands, and every year they come out with little tiny incremental changes that may or may not truly affect the outcome. The rifle industry seems to be, in my opinion, actually even a little bit more innovative, but it's even older, which is weird. But how do you even keep innovating for the next 20 years? Like,
yeah, that's crazy. I mean, you look at bolt action rifles, like, they were using bolt action rifles when my grandpa was born, like,
right.
I mean, you look at brass, being formed, you put a primer, gunpowder, and a projectile. That's been the same for generations. Like, right. So the core of what it is, and can somebody go out with an 80-year-old bolt action rifle that's been passed down for 3 generations and go kill an elk or a deer? Yeah, it can happen. The same as you could get in a car from that generation as well. And you can get from point A to point B. And it still happens. Now, the comfort in which you can drive in that, the technology, and that's where I see a lot of the difference right now is a lot of technology and materials and manufacturing and those things can help where the base part of it is a bit of the same. So let's take a bolt action rifle using, brass primer, powder and a projectile. It's the same. However, like our new backcountry titanium guns. Well, it's a sub 5-pound gun that has magnum performance with weatherproof, weather resistant materials, whether that be titanium, whether it be Cerakote, carbon fiber stock, therefore eliminating the weight issue, is not going to crack like maybe a 70-year-old piece of wood is going to. The water's not going to get into it and maybe affect the warpage of the stock or the weight of the stock or have it crack. So you look at all those things. In the end, it's a guy pulling a trigger, having a firing pin ignite that primer, and a bullet goes out the end of the muzzle. Like, that part is the same, but kind of a lot of those other things really aren't. And so it's taking a lot of those, which helps you to get into the backcountry, say, further, or helping to, whatever it may be, the ergonomics of things, the weatherproofing part of it. So you're not, your trigger's not rusting to pieces or whatever it is. Those things are changing. And I think a lot of that is with technology. We're doing a lot more with carbon fiber. We're making carbon fiber stocks here from scratch in Sheridan, Wyoming. And so to be a part of that process, my grandpa didn't get to be a part of that because the technology didn't exist. But my grandpa innovated back in the day. And a lot of old timers will see those old school guns and see that as innovation. But if my grandpa was here today, he would want to see that next newest thing. Now, he'd probably roll over in his grave if he saw some of our products because he didn't like all that new school stuff, but he liked innovation. And so I think those things keep moving along with generations. I don't know if I speak to that at all.
Yeah.
Question, but
innovation is it's a weird topic because whatever generation you're in, like my generation, for example, another example of me talking to my wife, we talk a lot about Web3 and like metaverse and stuff like that. We debate about it. And
I don't even know what you're talking about.
Okay. So I mean, for our kids, there's like a heavy future in this.
Yes.
Fortunately or unfortunately, depending on your opinion. But it is what it is. It is going to happen whether me and my wife like it or not. I would rather go outdoors, the real outdoors.
Absolutely.
But we talk about all the time, like how much it matters what we would actually do. Because if you would have asked even my dad about the internet when it came out, he'd be like, bah humbug, we don't need the internet. My grandpa would have. I remember when my grandpa saw the first cellular phones, like the ones in the briefcase with the cord and stuff. He's like, that thing, blah, 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 blah. He hated it and he thought it was stupid and how does it work and all this stuff. And then my parents, when the internet came out. But I just think innovation is one of these things that's hard to get comfortable with.
Yeah.
But it's coming whether we like it or not. And when you're a company, and especially the leader of a company, you have to, yes, your grandfather might have initially, if he woke up today, would maybe not like it, but he would quickly realize, oh, Adam's doing a great job with my company. Here I started in the streets of Paso Robles. Adam has to innovate. Otherwise, we're null and void unless we become like one of those more artsy gun companies that just makes like $10,000, engraved rifles or whatever. But if you want to be an actual a utility to hunters, provide utility to hunters, you have to innovate because the hunters are changing and they're innovating. Like every year it's different, right? Like their mapping programs are getting better, their clothing is getting better, their boots are everything's getting better. So if you stop, Adam, they don't need to buy your rifle.
Sure. Absolutely. I mean, that's what, we came out with a new carbon fiber stock. It weighs 20 ounces, including the recoil pad, the pillars for bedding, a bedding shelf. It's 20 ounces. Like that just couldn't have been done years ago. And we're able to do that now. And for those of us that pack in far and want less weight, that's really useful. We're doing a 3D printed recoil pad. It's half the weight and it reduces recoil more, but it's different. And people sometimes there's growing pains with some of those technologies, but if it helps you achieve kind of what you're trying to do in the end more, or carbon fiber barrels that might stiffen up a barrel more, or, different, materials, reducing heat. There's so many different things that can happen that are, helping us as hunters by embracing that technology. Now we still have and still sell wood stock blue guns. And so we still sell that as a respect, it's still beautiful pieces of work, of art. There's something traditional about it, and you can still go out and hunt with it. It may, your scenario and environment may look different for hunting, but I love, like, if I'm going to do like when I went to Kansas with my dad and we whitetail hunted, and it's primarily sitting in the stand and I'm not hauling things around. I felt like taking a wood stock gun for that nostalgia and traditional part of it. And so we still sell those. Now, people sometimes, the old timers, then, like you talked about embracing technology, they get upset and say, why is Weatherby making all this ugly stuff? Okay, that's what they see as. Why don't they make the wood stuff? Here's one thing my grandpa also was. He was a businessman. He was an entrepreneur. And here's the way we decide what we're going to sell. We put it on the market, and if customers like it, we make them. And when sales go down, I know this is like, to so many people, this is like news. If the demand isn't there, we will end up discontinuing the product. So we allow our customers to dictate our product line. And so we have about 10% of our rifle sales are in woodstock rifles. And we've discontinued a lot of woodstock guns that weren't great sellers because they were a small percent of some of the newer products that have more the durability and those different things. Now, does that mean we hate woodstock? No. What it means is, at the end of the day, this is a business, and I'm not going to make something that's going to sit on my shelf and not sell sitting on my shelf. So it's a business element. And so we experiment and see. And so we'll launch something, and if it's successful, we'll take that technology, we'll build more models. If it's not, you'll see it go away. But we allow the customer ultimately to demand that product if they like it or not. And that's a good way to go. I think when you look at, like you're talking about your grandpa with that technology and all those things, is at the end of the day, if our customers like it, we'll keep making them. And if they don't, we're not going to, because
that's right. It's the Netflix analogy. They loved making DVDs or sending out DVDs in the mail. They made a lot of money doing it. But as soon as they realized that those were going to be going away, they had to change their entire model. It was no longer a DVD company, mm-hmm. Streaming company. And that's the right mentality. So you're running a substantial business. There's a lot of people that listen to this podcast that are entrepreneurs, or maybe they run a business that's already up and going. What's your advice? Like, what's your top top 3 things you'd tell somebody that are running a business as to how you can be successful?
Golly, that's a big, broad question. In any industry, I got about 10 things flowing through my head. I actually like, I don't know if you've read Jim Collins' Good to Great book, an old business
I have,
book.
yeah.
Yeah. So I think he says to focus in order to be great and not just good. It's 3 things that he always said that really stuck with me. Focus on what you're really passionate about. And so again, for me, as you can tell, I'm a hunter. I'm thankful all the time my grandpa didn't start like a toilet paper company. I'm not passionate about wiping, So like I would have been long gone from that. I'm not in it just to make money.
You could have created Dude Wipes. Come on.
Right. But I'm passionate about what we do.
Yeah.
Number 2, something that grows your economic engine, like that drives your economic engine. Focus on that. So in other words, you can be innovative, you can do different things, but at the end of the day, it does have to make business sense.
Yeah. And
then number 3, focus on what you believe you actually can be the best in the world at. So for me, for instance, there's a lot of the gun and firearms and ammunition market that we're not in, different categories. We've been trying to focus over these past few years and on our growth to go like that backcountry rifle is like, let's really own the space that we're in, have a large enough space in that market to go, can we provide the best bolt action rifle for David Brinker to take in the backcountry from the caliber?
I would love it if you'd provide me that.
Yes.
I thank you. I'll give you my address.
And so like, we believe we can be that. There are certain things like right now, do I think I can provide the best polymer frame pistol for you to pack around and have a self-defense? No, I don't have the resources to do that. Like I'm not going to compete against SIG and Glock and everybody else that's in that world right now. And so I think sometimes we can see shiny objects, but it's also like we can jump to those new categories and think we can gain more market share rather than really being the best in the world at what you can be. And that's what we've been trying to focus on.
Well, it's a very good answer.
And went to Jim Collins instead, but it was 3 things, and I thought it would answer your question. I could check the box.
I mean, it always seems to boil down to the same few things. But the interesting thing that you said, even before the Jim Collins reference, was at the end of the day, it's a business, and especially if you're a creative person, you chase a lot of squirrels in your mind. Right, I catch myself doing this all the time. I mean, this morning I'm going golfing today at like one of the top golf courses in the world, Bandon Dunes in Oregon, and nobody wears gaiters in golf, and it's pouring down rain out here. It's going to be blowing close to 40 miles an hour tomorrow, pouring down rain. Everybody throws rain gear on over their pants, and then the water wicks up their pants, and they're soaking wet when they get done. And so this morning I'm like, why is no one making gaiters for golfers? And I'm sure there are brands out there that are making. I'm like, and then my entrepreneurial and creative mind starts running. I'm like, oh my God, it would not be that hard to do this, but I know that it would be. Look, I'm not trying to pretend that I could do this, but that's how my mind works. So like, I actually spent 10 minutes thinking about that this morning when I actually probably should have been thinking about what I'm already doing, because I do not need another business. But I think we all do that in a sense, especially if you're an entrepreneur or you're in a business. Here's the other thing I've noticed with business leaders specifically, Adam, and you tell me, or even product people, is your product is very old to you before it's even new to the consumer, right? So like, you'll be probably working on a new rifle for a couple years, I would assume, before you launch it, or maybe. I don't know what your cadence is. So by the time it gets to the consumer, you're like, oh, you're not over it, but you want to work on the next thing. Like, you're not necessarily like, it doesn't like wake you up in the middle of the night excited anymore. You're done with it. You've already gone through the process. So you're working on what's coming out in, 2024. But to your consumer, they want, like, this is still new to them. So like that balancing act for business owners and even team members of those businesses is hard, because they want to, well, shouldn't we announce what we're working on for 2 years from now? It's like, no, dude, don't distract people. They want to know about what you just launched. I know it's old news to you, but no one knows about it. You're too much in your head.
Yeah. No, correct. I mean, I rarely, most of my hunts are with products that are not yet released. We call it, product testing. I want to feel good about it. I want to be able to hop on a podcast, tell a story about how I successfully took an animal with it. I don't know. I just want to feel like I have that stamp of approval that I've used, that I've used this product, and so can you. And so I'll tend to be out there doing that a lot of times, but at the same part, we got a manufacturing facility. We're trying to crank out product every day that's quality, that fits in, our customers' needs. And that at the end of the day is what paying the bills right now, and paying a lot of people that work here. Their paycheck's not paid by the thing that hasn't come out yet.
Right.
Paycheck today is that Camilla that you went down and bought. That's what. So thanks for feeding our people here. So you do have to. It's a balance of living in the now and living in the future, and it really is a daily balance. I think when you're leading a product.
What do you do? What do you do? Do you have to-do lists?
I do. Yeah, but they're more my longer term projects. Like I'm in a meeting and I go, okay, that's right. That gets me thinking about this next product or this next whatever, and I'm going to do that. So I do, but I don't come in daily and look at it.
So you don't have like a tactical to-do list every day? God, I have to have those, man. If I don't have those, I things fall through the cracks and I end up embarrassing myself.
Yeah. No,
but I get you. You got to have those big. It's like you got to have the big picture stuff, and then like don't make sure to take out the garbage on a Friday. Otherwise, your wife's gonna get mad at you.
Yeah, wearing my hat, I'm in a little bit of everything meetings. So I mean, like yesterday, I was in one about all our assets and managing it, and which ones are old, and a financing, accounting, asset meeting. I also was out on the factory floor getting to walk around with new standard operating procedures in our machining center to let us know what our quality checks are for it and how the operators are working, how we're upping, our quality standards. And I was also in a new product meeting. So I get, and actually I did a whole bunch of filming yesterday as well for some marketing stuff. So each day, it's what I love about my job, like if I had to do the marketing film thing all day, I'd probably, it'd drive me nuts. If I was in accounting all day, it'd drive me nuts. And so I'm wired to the point where I get in each just enough to not screw it up.
Are you still, are you one of those leaders that's there 10 hours a day? You don't seem like a micromanager.
No, I am more of a micromanager than I want to be. And I think, as we moved here a few years ago, the big part was like, we looked at each other. We have 135 employees here today. 12 of us are from California out of 135. So less than 10%. And so when we moved here, we knew we were having to rebuild this team. And so for a period of a couple of years, Brenda and I had to get in to a lot more of the details than we traditionally would have or ever wanted to be, because we were really trying to reset that culture, have people understand, what a culture of excellence looks like, in all the different ways. And so we had to step in more. And then we began to build up trust in our new leaders, where we trusted them. And now we're allowing for them to lead more and more. And so it's been a process where a lot of times with the business are old, if you wouldn't have just gone through that giant move, it'd have probably looked a little bit different. But we had to get in there in the weeds more than long-term we wanted to be. So the last few years, especially those couple years during the move, 18, 19, and 20, those years for us, we were heavily involved. Because at the end of the day, we're like, look, if somebody didn't know how to do this and we moved, like, we got to know how to do like a lot of stuff here. But we are to the point now where we're really super proud of our team here, what we've been able to accomplish together, the leaders that we have in place, and our team's just been rocking it and crushing it. And that does allow us to, I'd rather be, I can sit on a podcast here with you because I am Adam Weatherby. My last name's the same as my grandpa. My name's on the side of the building. I got to focus on things that Adam Weatherby can only do. I don't have to be in every little weeds meeting that's out there. I can trust my team to do those things. And where's my best time spent? The video I did yesterday, it was because I was Adam Weatherby. I had to do that video, and I was the one to do that video and be on podcast for you. So, and I do need to acknowledge that and realize that more, that I need to trust my team because I got a great team.
Yeah, it's hard though. I mean, there's realities to it. Sometimes you don't have a great team. Sometimes you have some people on a team that you do need to watch. It's inevitably, if you have 125 employees, you're gonna have challenges, and that's just the way it is. Now, I wanted to ask you about something outside of business.
Sure.
You started flying. You're a pilot.
Uh-huh.
Why? Do you have death wish? What's going on? We need to talk about this, Adam. Come on.
Yeah, I did. I probably 15, 16 years ago, I got my private pilot's license. And I'm the kind of guy, like, whatever, in junior high, I got scuba certified. Like, I don't know why I got the license to drive the church bus. I just seem to I love accomplishments. I love being able to open myself up. Same thing with scuba diving. It's like, hey, you go back to technology and innovation, right? Well, for thousands of years, human beings couldn't go down and swim with fish for an hour at 50 feet. It's like, wow, that's cool. In the same way, over 100 years ago, we weren't able to get up there and fly with the birds, and we weren't able to get places as quickly. And it's like, I don't know why. I had a friend and he was a pilot. And I just went, I think I'm going to go get my pilot's license. And then I just did it. It does enable me to get places quicker. It enables me to be more efficient. And so there's a lot of practical parts, but it is a passion as well. So it's a hobby, but it's also like, it helps me be efficient. Usually even in, even in my plane, that's not a jet, it's single engine, propeller driven plane that doesn't go all that fast, but because I can go as a crow flies, it's usually it's about 3 times quicker than a car. And so it's just super handy for me. When I went down to the Western Expo where I saw you, that'd have been I think roughly 8-hour drive. It's maybe a 2.5-hour flight for me. So it just really opens up kind of the world as well. And it's technology, it's innovation that you're constantly doing. It's a challenge. You
have to be extremely detail oriented, though. See, here's the problem, Adam. I'm a little bit jealous. I probably wouldn't get in it with you. Not because of you, love you, but not a big fan of small planes unless I'm going hunting. And even then,
I do that too.
Even then, I'm not. Jets put me to sleep. 0% fear. I've done it so much. Great. Small planes, not a huge fan. But with that said, I've always wanted to be a pilot, but there's a big problem, Adam. I'm not detail oriented. I would make mistakes. My buddy Tim Lesser just got his pilot's license.
Yeah, I've been talking to Tim.
Yeah. He's ultra precise and detail. He is scary. That's why he's a product guy at Loophole. But I'm not, and therefore my wife's like, you are absolutely, you can't even remember to put the milk in the right place. There's absolutely no way you are allowed to get your pilot's license.
Yeah.
But I would love to be able to go get in a plane and just be like, all right, let's fly. Like today, I have a 5-hour drive down to Bandon. I would much rather fly down there. But I don't think it's in the cards for me.
Yeah. Well, the next best thing to becoming a pilot yourself is making friends with those who are and are competent and have plans. It's kind of like a friend with a boat.
Oh yeah, good point. You don't got to buy a boat. You just got to find a friend with a boat.
You just got to have a good friend with a boat. So it's kind of a similar thing.
Do you have aspirations of getting a jet?
What's funny is, there's all sorts of different levels of things. What's funny is it's kind of like everything else. Like a lot of jet pilots that go up and they cruise in the 30s or even, over 40,000 feet. And then they see my plane and they're like, I remember when it was just fun.
Yeah.
It wasn't just go put it up on autopilot really high and all those kind of things. I mean, for an efficiency standpoint, and as fun as commercial traveling is these days, it's just so fun. Flying commercial and putting on masks, it's just so enjoyable. And
especially Southwest or Spirit Airlines,
Right. So the more that happens, and the more once you're a pilot, and oh man, I'm a few ratings away where I could do that.
Right.
There's a cost factor there. I happen to have a wife and a CFO. Both of them squash up my
needs a jet. Weatherby needs a jet. We're going to work it out with your CFO. Hey, what are we talking? Come on, 25 mil.
You can get them for in the single digits, easy.
Yeah.
Just depends on what.
I did have a client last year. We went out and looked at some property that I was helping them with, and they flew me back on their jet. And I'd done it, I guess, one other time when I was with Sitka, but man, that was nice. Like it was a 6-hour drive. Instead, I was home in 38 minutes.
Yeah.
My wife was picking me up at the airport by her house, and I was eating dinner.
It's good living. It's good living. And what's so cool is there's no TSA. I can bring our products on there, which are highly regulated, and put them on board. I mean, it's just, you can,
and it's no problem flying across state lines. There's no.
Oh, no, not at all. Not at all. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I can drive across state. I mean, there shouldn't be any problems, right?
Nope.
That's crazy, man. Well, you need another thing to worry about or get, but I highly recommend that you get your jet, and because then that makes you my best friend, Adam, and I would travel to every trade show with you.
Oh man!
What? Yeah. How do you have to deal with any of the sort of social media stuff? And you have people handling that, I'm sure, but being in a highly scrutinized, highly controversial wing of the industry, how do you deal with? I mean, you're obviously a very religious person, so you have your a lot of faith, and people like you tend to be lower anxiety people just by nature of your belief system. But how do you deal with like really, really big challenges and scrutiny or even controversy?
No, that's that's good. I don't know, man. We just try to stay true to who we are. And I think, at the heart of it, like, we say our vision statement, our aspirational thing is we exist to inspire the dreams of hunters and shooters. And so, for us at the end of the day, like, look, you just went and got this 243 for your son. And my hope is I'm going to see a photo of a big smile from your son, next to, to that animal, to that deer, whatever it is. And like, you're going to have memories. Sure, it is only a tool. It's steel, wood, aluminum, whatever components are on that particular product that are slapped together to make something, but you're going to go make memories with it. And odds are your grandson or granddaughter may be using that gun someday. And so like at the heart of it, like what we do is we love to see people in the outdoors. We love to see people out there recreating together. And our products get to be a part of that. We get to hear those stories. So we try to focus on like what we do and at the heart of like what that is. And so there's going to be scrutiny and there's going to be all those other things that are going to come up. And, 90% of the people who comment on social media, I don't think have a very high IQ anyways. And so, you start to look at those things and it's like, you have to, as a leader, and the larger your organization grows, you have to look at those things and go, yeah, those, there's certain boundaries that we have. There's boundaries that we have with social media. I mean, I can't advertise on Facebook or YouTube or the different things because, we make weapons.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
So like, we gave that up years ago. We can't boost a Facebook video.
Can you post on? I mean, you could post on Instagram. It's Facebook.
We can, but we can't have a call to action to buy the product, and so there can be nothing that does that. So obviously, we can post on there, but we can't. There can't be a call to action, and so that's kind of the thing. So, do I believe that infringes upon our rights as Americans? Absolutely. But unfortunately, the folks that are running those companies think different, and it's a shame. But all my competitors are under those same boundaries. I can sit there and complain about it all day, or we can just go back to what we do, making good products and let people know about it and have them get out there and buy it. There are rules and things that come into play there, unfortunately, due to things in our country. But we focus on what we do and try to not get bogged down by the negative.
Yeah. From a marketing standpoint, it definitely creates some challenges for gun companies.
Absolutely.
I don't know if you know this, Adam, but I also own a real estate company.
Yeah.
And it's obviously, I'm not saying it's as controversial as rifles, but in terms of advertising, it's damn near impossible on social media. Like you can advertise, but you can't you can't, because of all the laws around that stemmed from the redlining that happened a long time ago, and like all the racist policies that did exist. You still today can't, like, I can't say I have a ranch for sale and I want to target in this ad people that are qualified to own a ranch and also want to own a ranch for hunting or whatever else, right? Like, you can't put together a pretty simple digital strategy for that. They will not let you. You have to advertise it to everybody or nothing. So I quickly realized that's a total waste of money. But same thing. It's, I guess, as a business leader, you just got to, and you guys have obviously done just fine trying to figure out other ways. I imagine one of the best ways for rifle companies to market their business, what you guys do a really good job at, is word of mouth, just creating meaningful relationships with your customers and building a great product. If you have those two things, especially when you're an established brand, you're going to keep growing. And I think that ties into what I said earlier about Adam Weatherby. You know, your name is probably a double-edged sword, right? Like, they got to throw you in the videos because you're Adam Weatherby, and everybody wants to talk to you because you're Adam Weatherby. Luckily, you love what you do, but you standing there shaking hands at the trade show booth is a small deed, but so important if your entire strategy and what means the most to you guys is customer relationships, right?
That's actually what with my grandpa. I mean, in a couple different ways. That's how, a couple different stories about him that I always try to remember from the customer facing part. You know, one, I remember, I mean, everybody knew Roy. I meet people all the time still now. Like, I knew Roy. I met him, or, you know, an old timer will come up. I met him in my shop in 1981. I'll never forget. And I've sold so many Weatherbys since. My dad tells the story, like, when he was kids, their idea of a vacation was they get in the station wagon with my dad's two sisters and my grandpa and grandma, and they would drive from LA to Florida and back and visit everybody with an FFL in between. And he'd go in there and schmooze with the guy for an hour. And guess what? Next 10 years, Roy Weatherby walked to my shop. And so I trust it. And that's how he started the business. I mean, I don't know how so many people say they met my grandpa, and he's been dead since 1988.
That's crazy.
It's insane. And then, you know, the other thing was he also, like I mentioned, you know, with John Wayne type of characters out there, is he got the right people shooting his product too. And, you know, and that helps. And so we, you know, we make sure that if there are trusted sources out there by people, that's important as well, because while our, you know, rights to advertise and to do those things might sometimes be, you know, crushed, we can have other people that are out there that people trust, of different names. And if they're using the product, that helps as well. So, you know, the modern day John Waynes, if you would.
Well, the reality is advertising really, because I'm a marketer at heart, you know, that, Adam. Like, to me, advertising should only ever be used to you're putting gasoline on a fire that has to already exist, kind of thing. Like, you're never going to, well, I shouldn't say never. Like, with a high-end premium product, you're trying to sell, I mean, at this point, you guys have rifles that are $3,500, $4,000. Yeah. You're trying to sell something that's really expensive to just about everybody. If you can do that off one ad, hats off to you. But in reality, what's really going to happen is they're first going to hear about your brand. Then they're going to have a buddy that shoots the brand that really had a good experience with it. Then they're going to start doing research and looking at forums and reviews and etc. Maybe they'll buy maybe one of the lower price point versions of it. And then so they get ads served to them. It's more just like a reminder and like stoking the fire that was already created in them through their friend having it and the brand recognition. Anyways, it's a whole process. Oftentimes I've seen in business people mistake ads for, like, I'm going to turn on this ad, my business is like going. It's like, no, especially in this day and age with all the you know, fences they put around how you can advertise and all this stuff. It's really not. But even when Roy started this, he was probably at that store 10, 12 hours a damn day, building relationships one by one for years. And then even still today, people still say they met Roy and it had an impact on them. That impact cannot be accomplished with ads, period, end of story.
No, and that's what's different about us being a family business too. And that is a differentiator. And even my marketing team gets that. I'm always like, guys, it doesn't need to be all about me. They're like, yeah, but people do, they trust that name. It's generationally now for 3 generations been led by that family. A lot of our other competitors may either be newer, they may be a startup or public or owned by a private equity firm that doesn't hunt. And so if you have a legitimate like user that is authentic to the product and those things, you tend to buy something if you trust that name or that marketing, whatever it is. Trust, as you well know in marketing, goes along with it. And also you tend to buy stuff on how it makes you feel, and that personal part of it is a differentiator for us. To be in the family after 77 years has defied the odds. And a few others in our industry, Hornady, Nosler, Hodgdon Powder, some of those, they're been in the family since the 40s as well, and it's neat to see, but it's definitely the minority. And there's a lot of America that really likes that story, and it resonates with them. So
absolutely, it's like a warm, fuzzy feeling.
Yes, it is.
Even if you don't know like consciously why it makes you feel that way, when you see that Weatherby name, it feels like something because you've heard it so many times, just indirectly throughout your life. You're like, well, it's like it's established already in your brain.
Yeah.
Adam, I love talking to you, buddy. I appreciate you coming on today. Where can people find out more about your guys' products? And do you guys sell direct, or is it just through dealers?
It's primarily dealers because of the whole FFL and what
right. Yeah.
deal with. We do custom gun sales. There is a custom configurator online, and so that is kind of fun to play with. You can build a dream gun, and we'll ship it to a local FFL. Right now, we want people going to our dealers. People are looking for ammo a lot. If we have stock and dealers have stock, we'll put it online. There's some direct sales, that's online as well. But our primary outlet if you have to go do a background check, it's, you gotta have that dealer. And hopefully if you got one you trust, where the guy or gal behind the counter knows a lot about the product, can help educate on it, works too. Yeah. But obviously Weatherby.com, and I think Weatherby Inc. INC on the social channels.
And you have a social channel you post to pretty frequently, right?
Yeah, just Adam Weatherby, all one word. Insta and Facebook and whatnot.
Oh, one thing I was going to ask you about, I'm just curious, how is it working with your wife at such a high level? Like, that's challenging for a lot of people.
Yeah, no, it is something unique about us. In fact, we share an office, me, her, and Wrangler, our bird dog, and the 3 of us share an office. And it's, we're high school sweethearts. We've been married for 26 years. So we've just learned how to do life together. We have different skill sets, different passions. She has a master's in organizational leadership. She heads up all our people and culture, and kind of a lot of other things from there. So even when we moved, she was actually over the whole facility. I wasn't over that part because I'm like, I got to still have product. We got to still sell them. We got to still market them, engineer them, design them. So I had to focus on our product, and she focused on the people, and she's a lot better at that than me. And so we've found our lanes where, there's a lot of things that I do that she doesn't, a lot of things she does that I don't. And so I just trust her heavily on the areas she runs, and she tends to trust me. And we have a strong relationship, and I wouldn't recommend it for everybody. In fact, most people go, you share an office with her, you share a home. Half the days we just ride in the same car into the office. And we did this morning with our dog in the back, and he comes in the office too. And so it's a different sort of scenario. I'd love to, attribute that to her. She's the biggest blessing in my life on this earth, and that God's blessed me with a healthy marriage. So maybe sharing an office and leading a company for some people might drive them to divorce. So I don't want to say it's for everybody.
I've often wondered if I think my wife and I could work together. I think we could. Obviously it'd be challenging, but it's challenging working with anybody. It seems like if you have a strong relationship with somebody, it definitely has the chance of being really great, but it also can ruin relationships, right? I've seen a lot of friendships specifically where they're partnerships or just it's tough out there, man. Business is tough.
And you got to have boundaries, like when you go home, So if it's Friday night at 9:30, it's like, okay, work is off. Can't talk about it,
Right.
You know what I mean? Because otherwise it's, It's an employee issue one moment, it's a product issue the next moment. There's things, so it is hard to turn it off. That's one of the hardest things. I would say the biggest challenge is leading it together.
I'm with you, man. I work with my dad. So my dad actually really founded what we're doing now 40 years ago. And it's the greatest blessing ever. We get along fantastic and we work together so well. But I know that that's not the case a lot of times. So I'm always fascinated with, like, when I see you and Brenda doing so much together, I'm like, I wonder how that works. Like, it's gotta be hard. But that's great, man. Well, congrats on everything, man. I'm stoked for you guys. Like I said, you guys are just killing it, and I love seeing successful businesses. I'm fascinated on how it works, and they all, at the end of the day, it usually comes down to great leadership and a great team and a great product. So congrats on all that.
Thanks, Brinker. Well, it's been awesome getting to know you, back from Sitka days and other things, and all the best to you and your new endeavors in this new altitude show, man. I'm excited about it and where you're going with it. So
thanks, buddy.
Yeah, you get your hand on a lot of things. So it's exciting.
Well, I'm probably not going to start that Golf Gator company, even though I think somebody should. All right.
Thanks, man.
Well, thanks for tuning into the Altitude Show today. Make sure to get out and support those that support this show. GoHunt.com, peaksequipment.com. Also, you can support us by subscribing to our YouTube channel, or wherever you listen to podcasts, subscribe there and leave a 5-star review. Nothing less than 5 stars. We'll see you next week with a new guest. Have a great day, everyone.